I just want to share another story with you today. My name's Karen Bartle. I'm a weight loss specialist, tending to work with more of complex and chronic weight problems. So people who have had sometimes weight problems all their lives, as long as they can remember, and tried everything, done everything, and for some reason or another, it's just not getting any better, and they just find themselves putting more and more weight on. And when they lose it, it's too easy to put it back on again. And so they go around this kind of vicious cycle of yo-yo dieting and various other things to try and manage their weight. It's not an uncommon problem. It's something that a lot of people face. I want to share with you today a particular lady that I worked with, just to give you an idea of the kind of work that I do and the kind of work that hypnosis gets to the bottom of, if you like. Hypnosis is a beautiful tool because it goes where sometimes no other things will go, where as long as people trust the therapist, or if they're doing self-hypnosis, they trust themselves. But it requires an ability to let go somewhat, to let go of the script that we keep telling ourselves and talking to ourselves about every day, of why things are. If we let go of that, if we open up and we see what pops up, sometimes we get different answers to the same questions, and different answers. Sometimes same answers to different questions. But for this particular lady, I'm going to talk to you about Jane. She'd been going with me for a while, which is not unusual when you're dealing with chronic and complex weight or pain or whatever it might be. Just because it's complex doesn't mean it's going to take a long time to fix, but typically it's not being fixed because there's something else going on. And hypnosis is a great tool to help people to figure out what that something is that's going on, that helps them to just find a window into doing something different. Now, this particular lady was incredibly overweight, probably morbidly obese, not just clinic. She was more on the morbid kind of obese scale, which is incredibly unhealthy for and a risk factor for kind of developing other things, diabetes, arthritis, which she had as well. She got depression. Because there's a lot of pressure going on in the heart, a lot of people get heart problems as well. Now, she was very depressed, and she was depressed not just about her weight, but about just things generally in life not going how they should, or how she would like them to. She couldn't exercise. She was trying her best to manage her diet, but that wasn't working either. So everything she seemed to try, she seemed to, according to her, would fail at, and she wouldn't do very well with it. We were a few sessions in. We'd done a lot of different things to help her try and make inroads to figure out what was going on here. We tried all the classic textbook things that we would normally try with people who had chronic weight problems. But this one day, I think through a lot of the work that we'd done together and the trust that we'd built together, and that's important, to build trust with a therapist with this kind of thing, because there's sometimes can be things lurking that we've repressed, things that we'd rather not remember. And she came one day and she looked pretty sullen and didn't want to speak too much. And that's fine, because hypnosis is great, because you can get back in there straight away and you can kind of just relax into it, and you can talk while you're in trance. So you don't have to be talkative. You can be incredibly introverted to do hypnosis, because hypnosis gives you the tool, the vehicle, to be able to come outside yourself, dissociate from yourself a little bit, and become the person, talk about things you wouldn't normally talk about. Not that you're giving away your deep, dark secrets, but you're more open and transparent, to be willing to talk about things that consciously you won't go there. And she talked on this particular occasion about something that wasn't making her feel very angry, actually, very upset. in trance, and she was getting very upset, but she couldn't verbalize it. She couldn't talk about it. So the next session, when she came back, something had been unlocked within there, and she'd found a memory, a repressed memory, and she realized that something that had happened not too far back in life was actually playing a lot on her mind, and she wasn't allowing herself to grieve that incident that happened. And what happened is, I'll share the story, is that her son, her only son, and he decided to emigrate to a different country and to give these kids a better life. And unfortunately, he didn't know how to, and he thought it would hurt her too much to tell her that he was going. So he just took off, and she didn't know where he'd gone. She didn't understand why he wasn't in contact. He had great intentions to get in touch when he got there, but he didn't know how to. He didn't know how to break it to her, to tell her that he'd left the country with her dearest grandchildren. She absolutely adored them, and so the problem was, she was left not knowing. She was left in a grief stricken state, not knowing what happened to them. And this was very unusual for her, to not know where her son and the grandchildren were. She saw them all the time. And she, not only was she grieving, but she was very angry, and she couldn't, when she found out where he was, which was via a letter in the post, was very, she couldn't forgive him. She couldn't forgive him for taking her grandchildren away from her. And this had been kind of building up inside, but she wouldn't allow herself to grieve externally, and she wouldn't allow herself to recognize it. And so she was actually not doing herself very good. And she came the very next session after we'd done that session and found some stuff where she'd written a letter that she wanted to, all the things that she wanted to say to him but never dared. And she asked me to read the letter, and I read the letter, and Jane just kept silent throughout. She was very, there was a sense that she was very relieved, actually, that she'd never told anyone how she'd felt. Even her husband didn't really know why she was depressed and why she was putting on so much weight. And it was a big insight for her to be able to do that, to be able to write that letter and to let me read it. Was a real privilege. And it gave me a lot of insight to understand what was going on. And during that session, we were able to, in trance, explore that with a technique called door of forgiveness. It doesn't matter if the person's not ready to forgive. That's not important, because what we're doing is we're just exploring what's the blockage to forgiveness, what's causing them to not be able to move on with that person, or whether they're still alive or whether they've long gone. And it's a beautiful technique. I used a lot for this reason. And it probably took, well, it didn't just take that session. We actually went over another session with it, because it was so important for her to deal with this. Then when she came back the session later, she had a big smile on her face. I mean, seriously, she looked transformed. She wasn't wobbling like she normally is with her head down. She was head up. She was feeling almost like this great big weight had been lifted off her shoulder. I mean, she looked different. And when we started talking, it turned out that she'd actually been on a Skype call with her son, and she'd plucked up the courage. Having written the letter and got it out of her system, and having done that session together on the door of forgiveness, she felt confident to have a call with him, and to all the questions that she asked him in the rooms that we went in off the door of forgiveness, where she'd already done it in her imagination. She'd already had those conversations with him and told him how it felt. She was sat across a table from him, and she was able to explain how it made her feel that he couldn't tell her what had gone wrong, why he took off and didn't leave any notice or let her know why he'd gone, and how that had left a great big void and a hole in her life because she had no clue where he was or what had happened, and especially with her grandchildren. And so, this is, it meant a world to her to be able to do that in her imagination in a very safe place with me, and then be able to then have a Skype call with him and be able to explicitly share that with him about how she felt. And that was such a great breakthrough. From then on, the sessions, we didn't have many more sessions after that because she was off on her own. All the pre-work we'd done prior to that session had started to kick in. And she was making leaps and bounds. She was exercising. She'd enrolled in a program where she could help young single mothers who weren't coping too well to be able to look after their kids and help them with childcare. So that meant she was around young children again. And even though her children were in a different country, she could still, through this role that she got, this volunteer role, helping other young mothers with their children, she found purpose again. She found a reason to continue on and continue going. She was parking away from work so that she could walk into work, and she was doing so much more for her health and her wealth. She was transformed, and it was all to do with this thing that was blocking the route, blocking the way, that was stopping her from being able to tell her story and to bridge that gap, put out that olive branch, and to make things good. And sometimes I'm not really sure how we would have got there had hypnosis not been the tool we used to do that. I'm not sure we would have got there, but just to share that with you, if you're interested in hearing more stories, I have shared loads more on here, and I will definitely share some more too. If you are in Jane's situation, please don't suffer in silence. There are methods and tools that we can use to help you to get out of those holes and those voids. So you can either give me a call. So I've let me have a look. So let me find the link. So I have a link which is there we go. So you can call me. It's a 20-minute call for free. You don't have to pay for it, apart from your landline. And I'll be able to help you to give you some clue as to whether I can help you, hypnosis can help you, or whether there's some other tool that would be better for you in terms of managing your weight better. And if you fancy it as well, there's also a weight loss course. It's a program for people to manage their weight, a 12-stage program, delivered over 12 weeks. So if you want to get more help over the longer term, where you do it at your own pace and your own time, you can go forwards and backwards through the techniques that I use on that program. That's probably the one for you. If you want more of an intense, and you think your weight problem is more complex, and there's something much more going on, then probably it's better to have a call and book in a few private sessions with me instead. If you go to the website, the personal coaching therapy is on there as well, so you can have a look at both. But either way, do drop me a line if you or anyone you know does need some help in managing their weight better. That's all from me for now, and until another time, I'll say goodbye.